All right, everybody, it is time for your football recruiting report with Otis Kirk. Always, Otis, great to see you. And so let's
Good to
get
see you.
started and talk about some guys for this class of 2021. And a guy that we've talked about before, in Cameron Ball, was going to commit, changed his date, still kind of feeling things out. So what's an update with him?
Well, he's still probably Arkansas's number one target, to be honest with you. I'm talking about uncommitted targets, Alyssa. He's now going to announce on February the 5th. That's the plan. That obviously that could change. It's Jackson State offered him this week, which people might say, why Jackson State? Well,
Deion
Sanders.
Sanders.
So that's significant,
Yeah.
But it's still Arkansas. Arkansas, Illinois, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, and Arizona State were in his top five. But I've always said it's going to come down to Arkansas and Georgia Tech. And if Arkansas can get a visit from him, and we don't know what's going to happen in January with the COVID, but if Arkansas can get a visit before he announces, I think Arkansas will get him. They may get him anyway. But, I think Arkansas is going to get him either way. But I know if he could visit, I really feel that he might already be locked up for the Hogs, but he's big time, Terry. 6'5", 300. If people are not familiar, just a great player from Atlanta, Tri-Cities, and he is 2021. But he would help in defensive tackle. People talk about he can play offense, and he's willing to do that. But no, when you get a kid that can run like he can and that big, you want him on defense.
All right, let's talk about another guy we've talked about, and that's Keyonte Jackson, who's from Royce City, Texas, and he's a wide receiver, 4-star guy.
Yeah, and he's highest ranked recruit in our commitment in Arkansas's class, highest ranked commitment. He had a big game Friday night, Alyssa. He had 4 receptions for 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, a long of 98 yards. He had 1 tackle on defense, had an interception. He returned it 42 yards. And if that wasn't enough, he took a kickoff back 90 yards for a touchdown.
There
No word on yet if he was the water boy or handed out water. He did everything else.
Yeah.
But no, joking. He's a great player.
He probably helped an old lady cross the street too. The kid probably
did it all.
doing everything.
He sold tickets to get into the game. He had 20 for the season. Now he's had 27 receptions for 538 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think that's 5 games they played. Their season started later, because of COVID down there. I think it was the end of September before they could start even playing. So, yeah, I think that's 5 games. I should know that, but I believe it is. But anyway, he's got good stats, 27 receptions, 538 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And they beat Forney 63-31, by the way, in that game Friday night.
All right, nice. All right, the last 2021 guy we want to talk about is defensive tackle Marcus Bradley. He's out of Gaithersburg, Maryland, which is quite a ways away from Arkansas, but they like this kid.
Yeah, and the part about Maryland is interesting. He committed to Maryland. He committed to Maryland on May the 1st, and it looked like he was staying home. This is a kid with just short of 40 offers, Alyssa. On November the 2nd, he decommitted from Maryland. And now Arkansas, with Coach Bullock and Coach Odom and those guys, they're recruiting him, and I think they've got a chance. Lucas Coley has been working him from Arkansas. Lucas works everybody though, so that's not unusual. This kid is Marcus is a kid that can go anywhere he wants to go. And if Arkansas could pull him and Cameron Ball in, gosh, what a haul that would be on the defensive side. And they've got Solomon Wright. We don't want to forget Solomon, even though I'm jinxed and can't see that kid play. There's a hidden story behind that. But, I've tried 4 times. And Thursday night, I got within 1 mile of the stadium. My car broke down. So and it's been one thing after another. I've tried 4 times. But anyway, Solomon's committed. But you add Marcus and Cameron, or either one of those guys with Solomon, you really help the defensive line. And last year, Bradley had about 41 tackles, 5 sacks and stuff. And so, he's a very good player. He's 4-star. And as I said, he can go anywhere he wants to go in the country.
Another defensive tackle we want to talk about, this guy, a class of 2022, but it's Trey Emery, and he is from Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Yeah. Robbie Hampton was from there and played at Arkansas. I'm sure there's others. I think Noah Preston was from there. But Trey is 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackle. They got beat 25-23 Friday night by Nacogdoches, but he had he had 5 tackles and a couple of sacks, and he also had a safety in the game. He really played well. This kid's good. He plays on a team that won their first 2 games of the season, and they've lost 4 straight. But don't let that fool you about him. He is a very good football player. He's got offers to Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas San Antonio. He's one of the players that listed that the COVID restrictions, not going to camps, not coaches not being able to go out to like a place like Mount Pleasant. That's what's hurt him. Well, I say he hurt, but I mean, he's got 3 offers, but he would have probably 15 had the COVID not hit. And he's not the only kid. It's affected a bunch of players, especially kids in like somewhat rural areas where they're not maybe getting all the attention from the media, And this kid's a good ball player, and the offers are going to keep coming in from him. He's just a good football player, and as you can't get too many defensive tackles, and Arkansas knows that, and they're really going after him. And he's one to kind of keep in the back of your mind for the class of 2022. I think Arkansas's got to get. We had a story on him this week. At the, at Pig Trail Nation in Hogville, and we had a story on him. And I really got a good vibe from the kid about. He told me definitely going to visit Arkansas when these restrictions are lifted. He will definitely take a visit to see the Razorbacks.
Well, one of the things they talked about on the broadcast on Saturday for the Arkansas-Tennessee game was how Barry Odom talked about kind of a lack of depth there at defensive line. So definitely looking to recruit at that position. All right, lastly, a guy from Malvern, Arkansas, class of 2023, and that's quarterback Cedric Simmons.
Yeah, and I'm becoming his press agent. We talked about him last week on here. And look, he's the one kid on this list that I talked about today that doesn't have an offer yet, but he's a sophomore. But here's the thing with him. They played Arkadelphia Friday night. You got to understand, when in 2018, Malvern was 0-10. When we think of Malvern, we think of Madre Hill, Isaac Davis, just Harold Harris, and a bunch of great players. But they were down, and he went there last year, took them to the playoffs as a 9th grader on the varsity level. Friday night, they beat Arkadelphia, the number 1 ranked team with Fearless Friday in 4A. They beat them 33-25. Cedric, kind of like Keytron, I don't know, he may have sold tickets too. He was 13 of 19 passing for 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and one of his coaches told me on the interception, he hustled downfield to make sure he got the tackle and didn't let that guy score. So even after a mistake, he really picked it up, and he rushed 22 times for 110 yards and 3 touchdowns. He single-handed, well, I shouldn't say that, not single-handedly, but he really led the Leopards past a very good Arkadelphia team. And so he's got an offer to Kansas. We'll see if Arkansas offers him. I think they will, because I mean he's a true dual threat. I said on here last week, I think he's ahead of where Quinn Grovey was at the same stage of their career.
Okay.
Quinn Grovey. And listen, when I say that, some people might think, well, I think Quinn Grovey is probably the best quarterback to ever play at Arkansas. So that's a compliment coming from me. And here's why I say it, because I love dual threat quarterbacks. And I mean, we could argue other quarterbacks. I get that. But here's the thing about Quinn Grovey. He worked to make himself that good a passer. He wasn't the passer that he was when he was at Arkansas. He worked to get that way. And I think Cedric's a 4-point student, too. I mean, 4.0 grade point. And, just when I wrote about him the other day, there were so many people just messaging me what a good kid he was, character, just everything. He's very well respected, I guess is what I'm saying. And not just at Malvern, around the state, people who know him. And he's very well respected. So that's something that means a lot. And so he's going to be successful. And he's going to be a great football player.
Well, if you missed that article, of course, anyone here can go to hogville.net, see all the articles you write. You write stuff not just on recruiting, but about the current football team as well. And I got one more question for you, Otis, before we go. Again, another big win for Arkansas over Tennessee. What did you see possibly in the last 24 hours in terms of just the recruiting respect, maybe Twitter, maybe some messages, just the attention from that recruiting world that Arkansas is getting?
Well, I think they're getting a lot because Cameron Ball, we talked about to lead the show, he was tweeting about because Tennessee is a school on his list. Don't forget Tennessee. Here's the deal about beating Tennessee. It's one thing to beat and I don't mean this disrespectful, but it's one thing to beat Mississippi State, but when you beat Tennessee, because they're on those 4 and 5 star kids, and they're interested in the bowls, and when you beat them, you're getting instant respect. I mean, you're getting a lot of national respect there, and I think it was really impressive. Just Arkansas is so competitive now. I think they're going to end up 5 and 5. Hopefully more than that. They should have been 4 and 2 right now. We know about the Auburn game, but I can't let that go. I know.
Hey, you and a lot of other people, it's okay. There's always that asterisk, yeah.
But anyway, no, I think it helped recruiting. I looked on Twitter, Keyonte Jackson, Cameron Ball. I mean, kids were excited about it. And so it was really an impressive thing. And I thought Arkansas would win. I thought it'd win about 8 points. So they won a little bit more than I had to score 28-20. So it was a little bit, it wasn't quite as close as I thought. But it was a good game. And one thing about this Arkansas team, they're going to Florida on Saturday. They'll play Saturday, Alyssa. Here's the thing to remember. Florida will probably win. I mean, they were impressive yesterday, beating Georgia like they did. But Arkansas will not quit down there. They will go down there and they will play their rears off against Florida, just like they have everybody else. Yep. They're not going to quit. They may be out talented, they may be out mad, and the game's in Gainesville. But I promise you, Arkansas will not quit. And that's where you get a lot of respect with the recruits, because everybody can't go to Alabama. Everybody can't go to Florida. Everybody can't go to Texas. Everybody can't go to certain, all these schools. So there's a lot of good recruits watching that game, just like there were last night, and they're impressed with Arkansas. And that can't do anything but help recruiting. And in a time when kids can't visit schools and can't do this and that, it's really important to be impressive when you do play, because you're going to leave an impression on every recruit when you play a game.
Absolutely.
And it's either going to be a good impression or it's going to be a bad one. It's just like when you meet people, you either leave a good impression or you leave a bad. And when Arkansas plays like they did last, I thought Sam Pittman hit it, or might have been the Mississippi State game. I can't remember the exact game, but he said no longer is Arkansas going to go and be an embarrassment, to its fans and players. And that's right. And that's, even if they lose to Florida, I don't know if they'll lose to Florida. That's why you play the game. They should, but there again, that's why you play the game. But they will earn respect because they will play their rears. They will not quit. And that I can assure you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Otis, we always appreciate it again. Go read his stuff over at hogville.net. It is time well spent. Otis, thank you so much for the time, and we'll catch up next week.
You bet. Thank you, Alyssa.